Boom.
So, hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. If you're dialing in live or if you're watching the recording, it's always a pleasure to share these moments with you. And thanks, Louise, for joining me this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, Louise. One thing that I do every time I have any conversation with someone, because I'm so resilience obsessed, that's my jam. I always ask a quick introduction about yourself, but your point of view of what resilience means to you. Do you mind sharing that with us?
Shh, no puedo, no puedo. Oh my God, the postman just arrived.
I love that.
Yeah,
Do you want to share your definition of resilience in Spanish?
that's resilience. I'm telling the postman, go away. I'm busy. That's the problem when you work from home. You're sitting with your door open because obviously I live in a warm climate. So it's people shouting at you from the outside constantly here.
I love that.
Spanish lifestyle, or Canarian maybe lifestyle, even more so. So sorry, what was the question? My experience of resilience, or my take on resilience?
Yeah, your take a little bit about yourself. So
Yeah.
first of all, so you're on the island.
Yes, I'm on the Canary Islands. Yes. So
What
that
would
was a
that
quick
be?
snippet of Canarian island life.
Yeah, and I love that. That's a good way to get a little in on your lifestyle. Um,
Yeah.
what is it that you do or enjoy doing up there or down there?
I definitely enjoy helping people. I mean, I've always been a helper. I've always been, I studied psychology and I'm really interested in the human mind. And I also studied specifically communication. So that's something that's very warm to my heart. So in my current business, I obviously help solopreneurs, mostly completely one-man show businesses, to make their life easier, basically, to offload some of their work to me. And in any way I can help, then I try and do that the best way I can.
Awesome. And oh, I mean, I guess you get to work with like so many different people, witness what they go through, and you're yourself a solopreneur as well.
Yeah, I can completely know what they mean because obviously I'm living it myself. And I actually, I did last year, I did take in some help. So I'm a VA and I had a VA, but at the moment I don't have one. So I'm maybe looking for one again, because it is nice to know that there's somebody who you can also say, oh, could you just help me do this? Because there's only so many hours in a day, isn't there? And we need to have a life as well. And this is what I'm so passionate about, that I can see what a difference it makes when people start thinking about, okay, I need to try and get somebody on board to help do certain things. And yes, today there are a lot of tools you can use as well to help. It doesn't actually have to be a person, but I actually think the best solution is a combination. Use tools, platforms, automations, AI, whatever, and then also have a person involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So with your experience having like understanding this need and also your own life experience, what's your take on resilience? When we speak about resilience today, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think this is super important. I suffered a burnout myself in my early corporate kind of career. And it's like, I always say it's something that I would never wish even on my worst enemy, because it is really awful. And it's like it's a silent illness. You can't really see it on the outside, but it does affect you big time. And since then, I have always been very protective of my time. And I know for a fact that it's me who choose what I want to put my time on. So, you know, housework has not really been important to me because I'd rather go to the beach in my spare time. So I'd rather have it a little bit, maybe less tip top in the house. So I can choose to do that instead. But also, it's important to know how to say no to things, because people can burn out in so many different ways. I know some of my friends, for example, they find it quite difficult to say no to all the social events, but they're almost burning out just because they don't want to miss out on the fun, so to speak.
Mm.
So I definitely think deciding yourself, because we all have the same amount of time, no matter how we look at it. So deciding what your priorities are going to be with your time, what you're going to be focusing on.
Mm. That's a very interesting take. You'd see almost like being resilient as having that courage to navigate
Exactly.
our mental state and how we protect ourselves, our time, and our energy, basically.
Exactly. Definitely the energy, because I've discovered quite late in life that I'm probably more on the introvert side. And you might not think that when you meet me, because I'm quite chatty and talkative, but it drains me when I'm socializing too much, or big crowds, or anything like that. It costs a lot for me. And I have probably fairly recently, the last few years, learned to say that, okay, I'm not going to say yes to that party, because I'd rather go to an intimate dinner with a couple of friends rather than going to that big hoo-ha that they're all going to, because I just know what it's going to take from me.
Yeah. Mm. It's important, I guess. One of the step, and probably something that you've experienced burning out, I guess it's getting to know ourselves, our own limits. Like
Yeah,
that's what it felt for me. And you
yeah,
mentioned like burning out in the corporate space. I think a lot of people go through a phase where we get swirled in the rat race,
yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that because we achieve a lot and we learn a lot in that process. And then at some point, maybe there's a disconnect. Uh, we lose ourselves in the process, or we lose parts or sight of parts of ourselves. And then it's almost like having that exercise of reconnecting, rediscovering who we are, in order to become something a little more comfortable.
yeah.
So how is that how is that process? How do we navigate that reconnection? How did it work for you?
Oof, that's a very, very difficult question, and I definitely don't have the answer to it. By no means. I think it's different for different people as well, because you can suffer burnout in different constellations. I still do think that it's usually because there are more than one part of your life that is giving you stress. So it's not usually only stress at work,
Mm.
because then you're probably stressed about something else as well. Maybe, it's too much at home, with kids being picked up and activities, etc., etc., or keeping a tip-top home, which obviously I have sacrificed just to keep my sanity. But you know what I mean? There's different areas. And then we talk about work-life balance, and I'm a little bit allergic to that word, because I think it should be life balance rather than life-work balance, because work is part of life. We have to work. So I think it's looking at choosing in all aspects of life. You might want to focus on work, and you really you get motivated by it, but then you might have to do less in a different area for a certain time, if you know what I mean.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I think when I was employed, I was really kind of thinking about the work-life balance myth. And for me, it was ridiculous because I loved my job. I didn't burn out because my environment was so toxic. For me, it was I was toxic with myself because I
Yeah,
was a perfectionist, and I've pushed myself, and I didn't really know at the time what truly worked for me or what didn't. Uh, but I really worked hard, played harder, really kind of had certain self-destructive behavior, not sleeping well enough or going out all the time.
yeah,
And in that process, it was almost like I didn't want a balance. I wanted to spend as much time as possible with people in my line of work because they understood me. They
mm,
understood the challenges I had with my clients. They understood the strategies that I was constantly thinking about. And there was this kind of like, almost a cult of the
yeah,
hustle
yeah.
that I was created. And it felt great at the time.
Hmm.
So I think maybe I love the Jeff Bezos conversation around this balance thing, and he calls it like harmony, where
Yeah.
you can find ways to move into, like, make work part of your life and have your family maybe involved in it in some ways, and have that. It doesn't need to be a sacrifice of
No.
other areas, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what I mean. That's why I'm a little bit allergic to the word work life, because we just by using that word, we're separating them. We're not saying that they're part of the same thing. And just like you, I love working. Probably a bit of a workaholic. So if I was going to tone down my work, that wouldn't work because I wouldn't feel happy then. I love doing things and learning things and, going somewhere with it, if you know what I mean.
Uh,
But that's why I am quite, and I think I've learned this, or maybe I've always been like this. I don't know. I have to think about that. But I can switch off. I'm quite good at just doing nothing as well.
mhm.
When I was younger, I found that extremely horrible to be bored and not have anything to do. But now I can truly say that sometimes there's nothing better than just sitting not knowing what to do, because it becomes like a rest automatically, and you don't have to pick up your phone and start entertaining yourself. You can just sit there and just go, okay, I have actually nothing to do right now.
Mm. Well, it's a form of mindfulness. I
Yeah.
think everyone thinks, oh, mindfulness is meditating for 2 hours, but actually, it can be just being fully present in that moment, even for 10 minutes, going on a
Yeah,
walk, uh,
exactly. And
just
the
sit.
beach, the beach is a great place for that, because the sea speaks to you if you're just sitting close by the sea. I love that. And it got me thinking about the book. I don't know if you've read it, 4,000 weeks. It's a book that came out a couple of years ago, and it's about, what was it called? Time Management for Mortals or something like that was the
Ooh,
subtitle. And one thing he describes in there was that it was an art teacher or something like that, or anyway, the teacher wanted to kind of show the students how long it takes to learn from doing nothing, as in how long you actually have to be in this space. So the assignment was to go into a museum and sit and watch the same painting for about 2 hours. And obviously the students went, oh my God, we can't just sit there and look at the same painting for 2 hours. But that's what was needed for them to actually really get into the mind flowing by itself. So like you say, a bit of a meditation, really.
hmm. You know, it's incredible. We'll definitely have to drop the details of the book in the comments after this.
Yeah.
So for the audience to kind of check it out, I'll definitely add that to my very long
Yeah.
to read list. But it's true. I mean, we might not have discussed it before, but I do love art. I love creativity. That's why I do a lot of panels with creatives, and I write myself. Like, there is something in walking in the museum and sitting and watching the same artwork, like just picking one that is in front, conveniently in front of a bench, usually at a commenta. You can sit on the floor and just getting lost. And I love contemporary art, so this is always very abstract. So every time you discover a new kind of part of the painting, and your mind just explodes within that. And if you get the chance to know the artist and chat with them, you get transported into another world as well. But it's true, these moments
Yeah.
quite magical.
Have you been to Barcelona? Have you seen the Kiss there?
Ye-
It's an
no.
art. It's an artwork which is on a wall on a square, and from a distance it looks like two people kissing. But when you get close, you see that it's tiny, tiny little photographs that's been put together.
Yeah, I mean, I know the artist,
I can't remember what the artist is called.
because it's a very, very popular artwork.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
In Barcelona, I loved, like, getting lost in, like, the Gothic quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, um, yeah, I do think it was there where there's the Paleo of Musica Catalan. the Palace of the Catalan Music,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in a very, very tiny street. And I was looking at it on the map and just trying to figure out how to get there. And then I always remember like that corner turning into that street and then seeing like parts of its architecture. And you have like a whole discovery moment.
Mm.
And like it's moments like this. It's the first time I'm thinking about it, over a decade.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
I never really took my mind into that. But I guess it's cultivating these moments of joy, whatever it means for everybody, like whether it's through art or through some side of work, or sometimes work isn't what's bringing joy to people. So this is where it's important to distinguish it from the rest and to create room for something else. There's a sentence around burnout that comes out. I want you to see what you think about it, because this is where our conversation is going. It's something that says that we don't burn out by doing too much of the hard stuff, but by not doing enough of what we love.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
It
does
is
this
true.
resonate?
Yeah, no, it is true. And having two fairly grown up children myself now, it's interesting to see from their perspective. They're like, oh, what do we want to work with? And they've worked from different jobs now. And obviously, none of them have been their dream job.
Mm.
So sometimes you hear, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So is this what I'm going to be doing all my life? And I say, possibly, because I'm a very sort of realistic mother, so I don't want to paint it too pink and rosy for them. So I said, well, not everybody get to work at their dream job. Some people have a job which they can make the best of. They can have nice colleagues and have it feeling okay, even if it's not like what I really want to do every day. But then if that's your job, you have to fill your free time with something that you really enjoy doing to compensate for the fact that you have to be there to earn your money, to pay your rent and eat, etc.
Yeah. It- and it's something that there's a lot of artists who work that way.
Yeah.
They do incredible things, but have still juggling between two or three other jobs as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
I did that. I can say that I did that before I started my business, because when I moved here, I moved here because I needed to change my life around, because obviously I had suffered the burnout. And in the back of my head, I knew I couldn't just step back into that work. I just knew that it's going to be so much longer, the process of healing, or if it even was possible, I don't know. So I decided to just change everything. And so I moved away. But my focus when I moved here was, yes, okay, I have to work because I have to pay rent and eat, but I'm going to work as little as possible because I am not interested in money as such. So I worked part-time for many, many, many years, which meant that, okay, the job wasn't particularly fun or interesting as such. I had nice colleagues, of course, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. But where was I? I was there 4 hours a day. And then where was I the rest of the time? Well, you guess, I was at the beach. The beach is free, it doesn't cost any money. And even when I then had kids and they were babies, it's still free to go to the beach. You just got to bring some fruit or water, and that's it. So that's how I chose then to play it for many, many years. And it okay, I wasn't rich. And when people sarcastically, when I left the office, could say, "Oh, you lucky so and so," and I was like, "Well, we can swap wallets if you want. You have a choice as well."
yeah, it's always greener at in the neighbor's garden.
Yeah,
And it's always this thing, putting it down to luck. No, it's not luck. It's making decisions, choosing,
exactly, exactly.
prioritizing.
Yeah. And I have, about decisions, I have a very strong thing that I always say, and I say that And not making a decision about something is also a decision. And non-decision is a decision. When other people I know of, friends, for example, they say, oh, I don't know, I don't want to stay here, but I have to. Well, you don't have to. So it's not making the choice of making the change is also a decision of staying put where you are.
Yeah. And it's a lot around like mindset that impacts our mental health,
Yeah,
is not leaning into that. So, for example, choosing to see that as an obligation and being
yeah,
trapped into it, as opposed to seeing that as a choice,
yeah,
or completely being conscious of the fact that it is a kind of a choice, and trying to understand why are we putting ourselves through that decision process or non-decision process,
mm-hmm.
and coming to terms with it. But sometimes, I guess, probably why we only start thinking about these things when we burn out is that we finally get the mental space
Mm.
to have these kinds of conversations with ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, but how do we allow ourselves to maintain that headspace then after?
Yeah, it's difficult to say, because it's a shame, like you say, it's a shame that it has to come to a burnout before we get the possibility to have those thoughts or give ourselves that space. Because when you do suffer a burnout, it's obviously your body, your system is telling you that's it now, we're closing down. You can't do it. And I mean, I couldn't even walk at any pace at all when I was the poorest I was. Like I walked like a snail. It took me everywhere to go anywhere. And it was just impossible. I couldn't tell my muscles to go faster. It just wouldn't do it. Uh, and you're thinking, like, could I have thought about this before? Could I have done something about it before? And it's difficult to know. Obviously, that's what I'm hoping that people could reach this point before. And obviously, that's where your work comes in as well, because I'm hoping that people can come to the insight before it happens, that they have to change something or do something or let themselves think about it at least.
Mm. Yeah.
Because now, in hindsight, afterwards, for me, it's quite easy because my body tells me straight away if I'm doing too much. Because it's just like, no, you need to go sleep now. And thank God I live in Spain and I can have my siesta every day.
Yeah, it's sometimes it helps to be in an environment that doesn't make you sick, but
Mm,
it's a choice as well.
mm,
It's you have to make that choice and to take the action to go and live by the beach, uh,
exactly.
slow down, um, and I think it's it's an important component when we work with people around prevention. We talk around how we how we carve that space, how we find things that ignites you and make you happier and bring you that joy, how you treat yourself better in that process. And of course, there's a lot that goes into understanding the subconscious and what's limiting us, what are those beliefs that are waiting on our shoulders instead. But I think like between prevention and recovery, there's like that space where sometimes when you burn out the first time, you treat the symptoms
Mm,
and you don't go down to the source. So you burn out again and again and
mm,
you open yourself up for that. So there's like this kind of like, I understand the risk, but I haven't gone fully to everything I could do to get closer to myself yet.
mm.
And it's there where we find a sweet spot to, okay, I'm
Yeah,
still in the grind, but how can I start tiptoeing into creating that space?
yeah,
It's something that that you saw. I guess like you're definitely super aware around mental health and
yeah,
what it takes and self-care. Um, I think it ties beautifully with what you do. It's kind of creating that mind space
yeah,
for others to be able to do that, to not have too much of the tasks that are daunting maybe for them, or that
exactly.
they're not very good at, so they can focus on what they are good at.
Exactly. Like what I should probably actually get is a cleaning lady because that's what would help me better. Because I would like to have it maybe a little bit tidier and cleaner, but I am choosing not to prioritize that because you know I I'm not saying I'm living in a dump, but you know what I mean. It's like when I chose to go to the beach rather than clean my house, I would close the door and say to myself, well, the dirt is still there tomorrow. I can do it tomorrow. And then if I did it tomorrow or not, that's another question. But I could do it if I wanted to. And the same it is with like small business owners, for example. If they're feeling like they have to do it because that they're supposed to do it because it's their business, but there are so many things you can get help with these days, and you don't even need an awful lot of hours from, for example, a virtual assistant. It's a couple of hours a week, you get plenty, because you have to think as well that these people who are virtual assistants, they have that as their experience. They know how to fill in forms or how to organize a drive, and they do it quite quickly. So for something that might take you in your business hours, A, because you find it very boring, and B, because you don't have not the skills necessarily, but the you don't have the habit of doing it, because it's something that you're always putting to the side until it gets too much and you're really thinking, I have to do something about this now. So that's why if you just had somebody who did that on a regular basis and kept on top of it, then you would free up mental space and physical time as well to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, especially because when you don't do a task like a lot, you kind of like
Mhm.
forget about it. Like
Yes.
if I file my accounts like once a year, by the time it comes back again, I'm just like, oh, where are my logins again?
Exactly. Yeah. No,
But
that's
someone who
right.
struggles that, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Or just like email management, if you always come into your inbox and there's only a couple of mails that you have to deal with, then that's wonderful. Rather than you coming in there and like, oh God, there's again 100 emails, where do I start? Because it's a bit like that. It feels overwhelming then, doesn't it? It's too much. So you put it off. And then the next day there's 200 and then there's 300. And then, it easily accumulates.
yeah, that's true. And it's like something like so important. Sometimes it's like in these little details, right? And like how we go on about it. Because, for example, when you make the conscious decision to prioritize going to the beach and to
Hmm.
nourish yourself with that, and you close that door, you are fully aware of that choice,
Hmm.
and you're accepting it, right? But if you were in a position where you get frustrated
Hmm.
and make yourself beat yourself up because, oh, the house is not as clean as
Hmm.
it could be, and get frustrated, you'll probably spend more time
Hmm.
being frustrated than
Yeah,
actually doing the cleaning,
exactly.
or like hiring someone to do it.
Exactly. That's when you need to get a cleaner then, if that bothers you. For me, it hasn't been a need because it doesn't bother me anymore. But for some, if that's how you are, and you get more stressed because you're thinking about what you should have done instead of what you're doing. I mean, I know people who, even when they are doing the stuff that they are supposed to be doing in their work, they're still frustrated because there's also other things that they should have been doing in their work. And obviously you can't be in two places at the same time. And I think also your focus is obviously not 100% then on the task that you're actually doing or in the meeting that you are, because you're also thinking about all these other things that you need to be able to do today. So that's why I'm saying sometimes getting just somebody on for a few hours can be a lifesaver for you, and lower the overwhelm, lower the stress levels, and eventually grow your business basically through that as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing, and I think it's a wonderful point to leave the audience in, and this chat. It's that delegating is not only for entrepreneurs and big teams leaders. It can be done at a small scale, and this is how we scale actually, by being able to do more of the stuff that moves the needle.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're always going to be limiting yourself because you're going to be reaching the roof of your own time and your own capacity. And
Mhm.
then that means you can't grow anymore, can you?
Yeah, yeah. This has been amazing. I really enjoy talking to you every time, and I'm very grateful that this time we got to discuss a little more about what you do and how this works with mental health. I love your background and I love your interest in.
I was just looking at how plain and nice and quiet your background is. Mine is a bit messy, but it's only because I have a very tiny little office in behind sort of a shelf in my lounge. So.
Well, I've been very grateful that you're inviting us today to share a little bit of your life in
Yes.
the in the Canary
I'm going to
Islands.
have to go and see if I can find the postman now and see what he wanted to deliver to me.
Yeah, now you're going to have to chase him for 3 days, but that's another story.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not everybody have the postman coming in like in your lounge almost and saying, oh, he knows me by name and everything. Yeah, it's funny.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Louise. I'm sure we'll have another
Thank
chance to chat
you.
at another time. But
Yes.
it's lovely to have you today. And thanks to everyone for watching us live. I can see you. Thank you. And have a wonderful day.